on central dogma of molecular biology. The central dogma of molecular biology says the entire information that is required for the growth, development and regulation, all the information is stored in the form of genes in the DNA, and this DNA is organized into nucleosomes, chromatosomes, chromatin, then finally condensed into chromosome. So right from the small nucleotides, which is a double helical DNA, from there till the chromosome structure, this is how the DNA is organized in the nucleus of a cell. We all know that the DNA is the master. DNA is the master of cell. It is the master, or what do you call, the brain of this cell. So all the information, when you know that the life of any organism starts with a diploid single cell called zygote, which is being developed by the fusion of the male gamete with the fusion with the female gamete. So once this fertilization happens, the diploid single cell zygote will be formed, and this zygote is having some of the information, genetic information, carried from the male parent and some of the information carried from the female parent. So there is a information from mother and father which has make the zygote into a diploid cell. And if you see, all the vegetative cells or autosomes or vegetative cells, they are diploid in nature. Only the gamete cells are haploid. Once after the fusion, the zygote is the first cell which is becoming diploid cell. So it is having the 2n number of chromosomes, and we all know that humans are having 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs of chromosomes. And all these chromosomes, they are having the genetic information which can control the cell and ultimately the entire organism. So the organization first we should understand before going into the details of replication, transcription and translation. So central dogma of molecular biology says the information is present in the form of DNA, in the form of genes, in the chromosomes. These genes are nothing but the sequences of nucleotides. You know that DNA consists of 4 nucleotides: adenine, guanine, thymine and cytosine. These are the 4 nucleotides which are coding the entire information that is required for the development of zygote into a human being. So the letters, that the language of DNA is written in the form of ATGC. Then this information, how this information is passed on to all the cells. So the language of DNA can be understood only by RNA. Now if you see the differences between DNA and RNA, only difference comes with respect to the cytosine. Cytosine is not present in DNA. Instead of cytosine, uracil is present. So ATGC, let's say this is the language or the repeating letters that are present in DNA, and this has been replaced by ATGU. Instead of cytosine, uracil is present in the RNA. So this is the only difference between DNA language and RNA language. So information that is coded in the form of 4 letters on DNA can be read by an RNA, but it cannot be read by any other thing that is present in the cell. So there is an organization, there is a procedure to communicate in this cell. So the information that is stored in the form of DNA, and this information is passed on to the next generations, to the next offsprings, and this is how the DNA information is conserved. So that is why it is called as genetic information, as it is passing on to the next generation. Now So the information that is present on the DNA cannot be read by any other thing except by DNA or by RNA. So to preserve the genetic information, what happens? This DNA is replicating, means it is doubling the genetic information content. Whenever you see the replication, there is a, you know that DNA is a double stranded DNA, and before undergoing replication there should be an unwinding of DNA. When the DNA unwinds, the unwinded region, the replication will start. And once the entire DNA undergoes unwinding and the DNA strand is synthesized, this DNA, newly synthesized DNA strand, detaches itself from the DNA, parent DNA, and it synthesizes the another strand of DNA which is complementary to the DNA strand. So this kind of replication is called as semi-conservative replication, as one of the DNA is coming from the parent DNA and the other strand that is newly synthesized. So this is a newly synthesized based on the complementarity of the information present on the single strand. So as one of the DNA strand, you take n number of replications that has happened, the one single strand is mainly coming from the parent DNA strand. So on both sides, when it undergoes unwinding, both sides, though the DNA replication is going on, but these two DNA strands will never form a double helical structure. Each strand synthesizes a new strand. So this kind of replication is called as semi-conservative replication. Now, so DNA is giving its information to the DNA by replication. Now, for the growth and development, division of cells and the controlling of cell functions is also under the purview of DNA. So this information has to be given to something because DNA cannot perform all the functions in the cell. So it has appointed certain things. It has one mechanism to regulate the entire process of cell. So DNA has given flexibility to RNA to read its information, as the language of DNA and RNA almost matches except with respect to the cytosine. Instead of cytosine, RNA reads as uracil. You know that the Chargaff's rules base pairing, always adenine binds with thymine and guanine binds with cytosine. So this is a Chargaff's base pairing rule. So in the DNA double helical structure, the purines always equal to the pyrimidines, and purines they never bind among themselves. Similarly, pyrimidines they never bind among themselves. The bonding is always between purine and pyrimidines. Adenine and guanine are purines, and thymine and cytosine are pyrimidines. So adenine binds with thymine by 2 hydrogen bond, guanine binds with cytosine by a 3 hydrogen bond. So this complementarity makes possible to convert this semi-conservative to happen this semi-conservative replication. So that is why one of the DNA can come from the parent DNA, and the single strand DNA can make the complementary strand so that it becomes double helical strand, and this is passed on to the next generation. So this is how the replication goes, and the information present on DNA can also be read by RNA, as I said. So information that is required for the cell growth, division, development and any function has to happen in the body. So RNA goes onto the DNA and reads its information, copies the information and brings the information on a mRNA strand. So that is why mRNA is called messenger RNA, because it carries a message that is taken from the DNA. So DNA is giving the information to mRNA, and mRNA from the nucleus, it comes into the cytoplasm and goes on to the ribosome's machinery. On the ribosome's machinery, this mRNA decodes this information that is present on DNA and converts them into amino acids. So then it starts synthesizing the proteins. Now, formation of mRNA or copying of the information that is present in the DNA in the form of RNA or mRNA is called as transcription. So once the transcription is done, the genetic code that is present in the form of DNA is converted in the form of language of RNA. So DNA language is converted to RNA language. Now RNA, what it will do, it translates the information that has been taken from the DNA to the amino acids, so that the correct amino acids have been picked up and arranged in the sequence to make a protein or peptide. That is why proteins are called as workhorses of the cell. Because any function you take has to happen inside the cell. It is done by a protein. So that is why proteins are called as workhorses of the cell. So this is what the central dogma of molecular biology is. Central dogma of molecular biology says the information that is present in a cell is stored in the form of DNA or genes, and this information can be read only by DNA and also by RNA. And if the RNA is copying the information that is present on the DNA, that process is called as transcription. And once the transcription is over, the RNA comes into the cytoplasm and translates the genetic information that is taken in the form of codes to the amino acids. So as it is translating the information of DNA or the language of DNA to understand by the amino acids, this process is called as translation. So information comes from DNA to RNA. RNA gives this information to amino acids to synthesize a peptide or protein, ultimately to execute the function in the cell. This is what the central dogma of molecular biology. I hope you have understand the central dogma of molecular biology. Now replication of DNA, if you see, the replication means amplification of DNA. So the content of DNA, the amount of purines and pyrimidines present in one double strand DNA is again doubled by replication in a cell. That is what replication. Then transcription. Transcription means synthesis of RNA from DNA. That is transcription. Then translation. The synthesis of proteins from the RNA is called translation. So the transcription mainly includes the study about understanding about the genetic code, understanding about the mutations. Then translation includes the regulation of gene expression, and genetic engineering is also part of translation. So the DNA is having the language of 4 letters: adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine. So this orderly codified arrangement of these nucleotides on DNA is indicating a segment of gene. So this is how the different segment of nucleotides forms different genes, and each gene has got a set of codons which are demarcated as different names like operator, promoter, and regulator. A simple gene includes these 3 regions. Called operator, promoter, and regulator. So these are the units of a gene which are helping in the enhancement of the gene activity or the regulation of the gene activity, means inhibition. So this is what the regulation of gene expression. So when the gene has to be expressed, when the gene has to be stopped its expression, all how are regulated is also coded in the form of nucleotides on DNA. So gene composed of operator region, a promoter region, and a regulator region, which can help in regulation of the genes. So this is what we are going to understand in genetics. So this about DNA I am not going to talk. You know that DNA is a genetic information, and the segment of nucleotides which can function for a particular which can code for a particular function are called as genes. So gene is a functional unit of DNA. So this is a functional unit of DNA which is coded mainly for a particular or specific function. So, and this particular gene codes for a specific protein or polypeptide which can execute the specific function. So DNA is having the nucleotides which are associated with the basic proteins called histones and forms into a dense particle called nucleosomes. Later nucleosomes, few nucleosomes together called as chromatosomes. Then it becomes like a long thread-like structure. Then it is called chromatin fiber. The chromatin fiber ultimately condensed into chromosome. So the smallest unit in the DNA is nucleotide, and DNA is a double-stranded unit, and you know it is a helical structure. So DNA along with histones forms nucleosomes, and few nucleosomes they form chromatosome. These chromatosomes makes the chromatin fiber. Ultimately they are developed into chromosomes, and humans are having 23 pairs of chromosomes. Out of the 22 are allosomes, 1 pair is 23 are autosomes and 1 pair is allosomes. So this is a structure showing the organization of DNA. I am not going into the details. Yes, these three terms we should understand the types of chromatin. Euchromatin, heterochromatin and facultative chromatin. So euchromatin means it is the active chromatin and can be transcribed into a protein. Euchromatin is the active chromatin. So the DNA strand or the chromosomes which is having the chromatin material is not having entirely useful information or active information which can code for the active genes. There is some information which is not coding for anything, but it may be having some function which we could not understand clearly. So the active chromatin that is present in the DNA or chromosome is called as euchromatin. So euchromatin is the one which is actually functioning and is coding for the genes and coding for the proteins. So euchromatin is the active chromatin and can be transcribed into a protein. Then heterochromatin is called as inactive chromatin, and therefore it cannot be transcribed into a protein, but still it is there in the chromatin material. It cannot code for, it is not coding for any kind of protein. So this is not active. It is called as heterochromatin. Then facultative chromatin, if you see, facultative chromatin is inactive chromatin but can be activated depending on the requirement of the body. So euchromatin is the actual active chromatin. Heterochromatin is completely inactive chromatin which cannot code for a protein. Facultative chromatin means this can be activated if depending on the requirement of the body. So these are the three terms which we should remember in understanding the molecular biology concept. I am not going into the details of cell cycle also. Yes, you can see here, so the central dogma of molecular biology is depicted in this figure. So information that is present on DNA can be used only for the synthesis of DNA or can be read only by DNA. So formation of DNA from DNA is called as replication. Formation of RNA from DNA is called as transcription, and formation of protein from RNA is called as translation. So central dogma of molecular biology says information stored in the form of DNA and it gives information to RNA. This process is called transcription, and this information carried from DNA by RNA is given for the synthesis of proteins, and proteins come and execute the function what DNA wants to be done in the cell. So this process is called as translation. Altogether is called as central dogma of molecular biology. So coming to the replication. So replication means it is the duplication of DNA. It is the duplication of DNA and it occurs during the S phase of the cell cycle. This is a semi-conservative mechanism, and synthesis occurs from 5' to 3' end. During the synthesis also they follow this Chargaff's rule. They follow the Chargaff's rule. So DNA replication follows a set of fundamental rules like bidirectional replication. So the replication starts as a bubble which is called as replication fork. There is a origin and it continues continuously or discontinuously. So if it is discontinuous synthesis, they form Okazaki fragments, and if it is a continuous synthesis of DNA, it forms a single stranded DNA without any gaps. So two strands will be there while replication. One is leading strand, the other one is lagging strand. Leading strand, you will get a single stranded DNA during replication. On the lagging strand, you will get a fragments of DNA which are later joined together and results in the formation of a single strand of DNA. These small fragments that are synthesized on the lagging strand are called as Okazaki fragments, and these Okazaki fragments later they are fused into a single strand DNA, and this new strand of DNA will synthesize another strand of DNA which is complementary to it and results in a new DNA formation. So this is called duplication. This is what the DNA replication. If you see the DNA replication, the requirements for the DNA replication includes deoxyribonucleotides availability. Means deoxyribonucleotide availability means DNTPs, deoxynucleotides phosphates. So these are very important. You know that adenine, guanine, thymine and cytosine, these are the four nucleotides. The triphosphates of these deoxynucleotides are involved in the formation of DNA. So the prime requirement for DNA replication is deoxyribonucleotides. And as I said, there is a template DNA strand that is called as parent strand, where it is also called as leading strand, where the synthesis of DNA takes place continuously without any gap. And to initiate the DNA replication, we need a primer that is called as RNA primer. So this is a RNA dependent DNA polymerase enzyme is the one which is starting this DNA replication. So there should be a requirement of short primer which is of RNA in nature. And the enzymes that are required for DNA replication includes DNA polymerase, primase, helicase, DNA ligase, topoisomerases, single stranded binding proteins, SSBs. Topoisomerases, they are helpful in the removal of supercoils that are produced during the unwinding of DNA at the time of replication. So supercoils are removed by the topoisomerases. I'm not going into the details because it is not required in detail for you. So just you need to have an overall view of replication, transcription and translation. So I'm moving on quickly in the slides, and where I need to emphasize, I'm just talking few words about these steps. So coming to the actual process of replication, it includes three phases: initiation, elongation and termination. So initiation of replication, it starts by recognition of origin of replication and unwinding of the double stranded DNA. So unwinding of double stranded DNA, which is forming a bubble called replication bubble. In this replication bubble indicates that this is the initiation point. Once this is identified, the replication bubble is identified, the DNA helicase enzyme and the single strand binding proteins also come and bind with the single stranded binding DNA, so that the unwinded DNA will not close again. Then the initiation process will start at a origin of replication that is called as ORIC locus. So here these DNA binding proteins like single stranded binding proteins like DNA A, all these things comes and bind with the single stranded DNA so that they don't become again double strand. Then as long as the DNA is going on, the single strand binding proteins will be there, and the helicase enzyme is the one which continues the process of unwinding of double stranded DNA. And during this process of unwinding, there may be formation of supercoils which are removed by the topoisomerases. So topoisomerases, they help in removal of supercoils formed during unwinding. Then there is a replication fork. Replication fork is the area where the replication is going on. So this replication fork has four components: helicase, primase, DNA polymerase and single strand binding proteins. Now you can see in this diagram how the replication forks looks like. So you can see here this is a double strand DNA, and these topoisomerases are moving across the double strand DNA as helicases are helping in unwinding of double-stranded DNA. So this is how the helicases, they move in this direction. As they are moving in this direction, the double-stranded DNA becomes single-stranded and undergoes unwinding. And when there is supercoil formation, these topoisomerases, they remove these supercoils by cutting some portion of the DNA and resealing the DNA portion. Now here you can see these are the single strand binding proteins which are helping in maintenance of the single strand of DNA, and there is a short RNA primer, and this short RNA primer helps in the binding of DNA polymerase to continue the elongation process or continue the add-on nucleotides. So once the replication fork is identified and equipped with all these enzymes, then elongation of DNA continues. So this requires an RNA primer, DNA template, and DNA polymerase enzyme. Then DNTPs. So when all these materials are available, replication continues and the single strand DNA is newly formed, reading the parent strand DNA, reading the parent strand DNA. So this replication requires about 9 hours to complete one cycle completely. To entire DNA has to be replicated. It takes around 9 hours in case of eukaryotes. And this DNAP means DNA polymerase enzyme requires this RNA primer to start the elongation, and DNA copies the information from DNA template. So once this elongation is going on, see here. So this is how adenine, this is a parent DNA template or parent strand. This is the sequence that is present on the DNA strand. Then the newly synthesized nucleotides which are complementary to this nucleotide are coming and added during the elongation process. So there is a short primer. To this short primer, the DNA polymerase adds the DNTPs here. You can see here, if it is a C, the complementary nucleotide is G. A complementary nucleotide is T, and T is their complementary nucleotide A. So this is how the elongation continues, and once the DNA is read entirely, then the one complete single strand of DNA is synthesized, then the replication stops. As I said, there are two strands on the double stranded DNA during replication. One is called leading strand, the other one is called lagging strand. Leading strand is called as continuous strand, where the synthesis of DNA takes place continuously. Lagging strand is also called as discontinuous strand, where the DNA replication takes place in a small pieces. So these small pieces are called as Okazaki fragments. Later on, these small DNA fragments are ligated by DNA ligase and results in the formation of single strand. So replication takes place on both strands simultaneously. Replication takes place on both the strands simultaneously. So you can see here the replication, as I said, it starts from 5' to 3' direction. So if this is 5' to 3' direction, this is how the newly synthesized DNA is going on. On the other strand, this will be the 5' to 3' direction, where the DNA synthesis is taking place in small fragments. So this is a lagging strand and this is a leading strand. On the leading strand, the DNA replication is continuous, whereas on the lagging strand, the DNA replication is discontinuous and results in the formation of Okazaki fragments, and later on DNA ligase combines these Okazaki fragments into a single strand of DNA. Once this elongation is over, the termination process. So as I said, there are 3 steps: initiation, elongation. Now we have understood what is initiation, what are the processes in initiation, enzymes involved in initiation. Then continuation or elongation is there. How this elongation, by adding on the new DNTPs, it is going on, and there is a leading strand and lagging strand. Leading strand, continuous DNA synthesis is going on. Lagging strand, discontinuous synthesis of DNA. And all this elongation requires, there is a short primer called RNA primer. So RNA primer is very essential to continue the DNA replication. Then the termination, if you see, so the process of replication is terminated when 2 replication forks moving in opposite directions from the origin meet. Suppose if you see prokaryotic organism like E. coli bacterium, the replication of circular DNA takes about 30 minutes. It takes about 30 minutes. And for eukaryotes, I said it is 9 hours. 9 hours. And mainly this replication takes place during the S phase of the cell cycle. S phase of the cell cycle. So when this elongation is going on, when to terminate this replication process, it is understood by telomers. Telomers. So these telomers are small portions that are present at the 3' end of the parent strand, which is not replicated, and the length of chromosome reduces. So every cell cycle, if you see, the length of the chromosome comes down. So that is why the telomeres are also said to play an important role in age, in deciding the age. So telomeres are having the role in aging process of an organism. So this is what is understood, because telomeres are not replicated when every time cell division is taking place. So telomeres are not replicated. So telomeres region comes means that indicates that the termination of replication has come. So replication has come to an end when they reaches to the telomeres. So that is the reason telomeres are having role in aging process. And every replication, the size of chromosome reduces because the telomeres are not replicated. So telomeres contain a specific sequence, that is TTAGGG. So this is the repeated sequence that can be seen at telomeres. So part of the telomeres is not replicated during the replication process, and every cell cycle there is a reduction or shortening of chromosomes with each cell division, so by an enzyme called telomerase. So telomerase enzyme synthesizes and maintains the telomeric DNA, and telomerase adds repeats to the 3' end of the DNA once the DNA is separated from the parent DNA. So newly synthesized DNA, once it is separated from the parent DNA, telomerase adds some repeated sequences at the 3' end of the DNA to maintain the stability of the strand. So this is how the replication comes to end by the action of telomerases. Yes. Coming to the important point in replication, which is very, very essential for you to understand, is inhibitors. So what are the inhibitors of replication? So inhibitors of DNA unwinding means these are the substances which prevents the unwinding of DNA. For example, we have actinomycin and mitomycin. So these are the antibiotics which helps in prevention of DNA unwinding. As a result, they stop the DNA replication or they inhibit the DNA replication. So actinomycin and mitomycin, they actually inhibits the unwinding of DNA. Unwinding of DNA. So there is no DNA replication as there is no DNA unwinding. So actinomycin and mitomycin, remember, they act on DNA unwinding. They prevent the DNA unwinding. Then if you see some antifolates, they inhibits the purine or pyrimidine synthesis, like inhibitors of deoxyribonucleotides. So deoxyribonucleotides or DNTP's synthesis or formation is inhibited by using some kind of antifolates. Then norfloxacin inhibits the replication enzymes involved in replication, such as DNA gyrase. So this DNA gyrase is a kind of topoisomerase which helps in the removal of supercoils. Or once this DNA gyrase, what they do, they cut the DNA and again they reseal it. So when they cut and reseal these by topoisomerases, DNA gyrase is the activity, one of the activity of topoisomerases which is prevented. So if DNA gyrase is inhibited, only cutting is possible, but resealing of the DNA is not possible. So this this makes the DNA into small fragments which cannot be resealed, so the DNA strand is not synthesized continuously, so replication cannot progress further. Then incorporation of nucleoside analogs. Nucleoside analogs we are using for various cancer treatments like cytarabine and vidarabine. So these two are the nucleoside analogs which are used in cancer treatment and can also be used for the antiviral as an antiviral drugs also we use this.